Hi everyone, I'm Vanessa Lua with whatthehelldidshe.com, and I have the opportunity to interview Jeremy Scahill, who his film Dirty Wars is right now on theaters. So check it out.
Um, so you meet these people and they're in these war zones and they're adrenaline junkies and the only time they feel alive is when they're in these war zones. And I would never want to become that kind of a person. Um, Fear, I think, is a very healthy thing if you're in a dangerous situation because your senses are heightened and you're paying much closer attention because you know you could be killed. And if you aren't fearful of death, then you're going to be reckless in the way that you handle yourself. Um, but as far as other things like you're asking about, is someone going to do something? Or we could all become paralyzed by fear, and then we don't do anything. So I think the challenge for all of us in life, not just journalists, is one of our challenges in life is how do we manage our fears? Do we let them take us over or not? It's not just about war. It's in life too. It's in our relationships. It's in everything we do. How do you manage your fear? But for journalists who are working in combat zones, it becomes very real right away. But yeah, there are you meet some crazy people in these places, and guys on motorcycles who are riding around war zones with their cameras, and I mean, I've seen it all. It's just bananas, and a trail of like broken tears. So anyway, well, I don't think we all manage it that well. I mean, I don't know that I have overcome it. I think you're. I don't sleep very well. I mean, I think we all are. If we're human, when you go to these places and people let you into their lives and they let you into their suffering, you don't just walk away from that as though it's like a story. It's not like you sold someone a car and then you forget about who they were because you sold them the car. I mean, these are real people that were really in your life and opened themselves up to you in a very real, deep way. And I mean, I'm haunted by 15 years worth of images and stories going back to the first time I went to Iraq in the late 90s. I mean, I remember specific faces of people, and so I don't know that I've overcome it at all. I mean, I think what keeps us human is if we hold on to the memories of people who have actually let us into their lives, and so I try to do that, and I try to stay in touch with people, and do what I can to support the people that let me into their lives. Yeah.
Were you as a kid seeing yourself doing this, or life put you through this?
No, as a kid, first as a kid, I wanted to be a basketball player, and then that didn't work out too well. No, I wanted, when I finished high school, what I really thought I was going to do was to be I wanted to be a teacher, a middle school teacher, and I wanted to work in poor communities, in an inner city community, and that was really what I wanted to do. And but I was a terrible student in college, and I was not. I realized that if I was not made out for academia. I mean, what happened to me actually was that I mean, I was always interested in politics. I mean, I remember I read the autobiography of Malcolm X when I was pretty young, and I read a lot of James Baldwin, who's, the great writer, and got really politicized from literature and reading history. But I never thought of being a journalist. And I actually was working in a homeless shelter in Washington, D.C. in 1995, and I was listening to the radio all the time when I was there mopping floors or taking guys to doctor's appointments. And I heard this woman on the radio, this journalist named Amy Goodman, and it was like I just stopped and I couldn't believe it. And she was this sort of brilliant reporter who was talking about all these stories that you didn't see in the newspaper and you didn't see on TV. And so I started to, I don't want to sound like a creep here, but I started to kind of stalk her. Not actually following her around, but to say like, I want to help in any way I can. If you have dogs, I'll walk your dogs, or I'll wash your windows, or I'll get you coffee. And I think she had to decide whether to get a restraining order against me or like let me volunteer. So she agreed to let me come and finally volunteer. And so I ended up going to this radio station in New York where she was based, and just volunteered, and I ended up basically living in this place and asking everyone a million questions, and I learned how to edit tape on old reel-to-reel tapes, and I learned journalism the way that an apprentice would learn how to be a plumber or an electrician or a carpenter. I've never taken a journalism class in my life. I list on my Facebook page my university as Democracy Now!, which is the show that Amy Goodman hosts, because that's everything I learned about journalism I learned there. And I always say that too to students, like, that some of the best journalists I know never stepped foot in a journalism class. they studied other things, or they don't have a college degree. They're people that are in love with the world, and they have a passion for knowledge, and they have a passion to hear the stories of other people. And so I became a journalist. I think journalism is more of a trade than it is a career or a profession. You know, it's you got to get your hands dirty to do it. You should have calluses on your hands.
What is your opinion about the press here in the U.S.? Because you, in your film...
I think it would be a good idea.
What?
No, I'm just kidding. Because what?
Well, in your film, you show all these parts where the press is being like so tough to you. And
Oh, there, yeah, I'm getting yelled at. Yeah.
I was like, when I was seeing that, I'm like, oh my God, I'm going to hug that guy. They were so mean.
Look, I mean, there's some really, really amazing journalists in the U.S., and some of them work for big corporate media organizations that are fantastic reporters. But a lot of what passes as news in this country is junk. You know, it's infotainment. It's, you know, the Real Housewives, you know, are reality TV, and you know, they're drinking Pinot Grigio and having their little poodles and other things and shopping. And then the real, you know, housewives of Mogadishu or Kabul or Baghdad, nobody pays any attention to them. You know, you and I were talking yesterday about the coverage of Mexico. I mean, what do people in this country really know about what's happening just south of their border? What do they actually know about what life is like for people in Mexico, or why the obsession with the one issue about Mexico, immigration, and then the drug war? That's it. You know, and we have a lazy media culture in this country, and we have an ad-driven media culture where corporations that pay the money to have advertisements on television are ultimately going to dictate what gets on the air. That's the whole bottom line. It's a for-profit industry. Newspapers are shutting down. Budgets for foreign reporting are being completely emptied out. One of the things, though, that's hopeful is that there's a lot of citizen journalists. You know, there are people that on Twitter that are breaking stories and holding powerful people accountable and calling out liars. And so I think in the future what we need is to take the old-fashioned way of journalism, muckraking journalism, investigative journalism, fact-checking, editing, peer review, and find a way to mix it with the very young energy of social media journalists, and find some way to put those together, because we need to catch up with the times. And I think that that's the future of journalism. We can't lose what was so great about old-school journalism, but we also have to grow up and embrace social media and technology, because the potential is enormous for really great, innovative journalism.
Adiós.
¿Quieres hablar en español?
Estoy hablando en
Podemos, si
español.
quieres.
¿Qué me quieres contar?
Porque mi español es muy, muy malo.
No, no es malo.
Pero
Por lo menos sabes decir que es muy malo.
si yo puedo hablar sobre nuestra película en una vía que es positivo, que quiero, pero mi español no es bueno.
But you sound so cute, so I'll take it.
All right.
Gracias.
Okay. I see you. Give me that.
That was the brave Jeremy Scahill. Thank you so much for watching. Please follow me on Twitter at What the Hell Did. Subscribe to my YouTube channel, What the Hell Did She Say? And visit my website, whatthehelldidshe.com. Thank you.